there were many instances of discrimination and inequality in my educational experience from beginning to end um, in Birmingham, basically because it was a segregated school system. And I want to be clear to say that there's a distinction between segregation and separate but equal. So my entire formal education in Birmingham was comprised of a segregated and inadequate school system in terms of resources and supplies. It was a tradition for us every year as the new school year started from throughout elementary school and on into high school. The school system would supply your basic textbooks. So we always knew that we should expect that we would get the most deplorable, dilapidated books from the white schools. Pages missing, covers, some of them didn't have covers, and writing and scribbling all in them. And oftentimes, as a reflection of the times, many times the students, the white students in those schools those books were coming from, knew where they were going. So there were often many racial epithets that they would write in the books, knowing that at some point some black kid somewhere was going to get one of those books and open it up and see it. So it was almost like a personal note from me to you, you know. And so those kind of things were very, very common, and they happened often to the extent that you not only expected it, but you were clear that something's not right about this system. So one of the things that I always cherish was just the degree to which, in light of the horrendous nature of what we faced being part of a segregated society that brought with it a great degree of massive oppression and discrimination and violence and all that stuff, we had such rich lives as kids. Our childhood, we had childhoods, that weren't overshadowed by that. We went to the summer camp and vacation Bible school and reading programs at the Smithfield Library and field trips to so we was all of this stuff. Our parent Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Jack and Jill. You had all of this stuff. And then I think about like Sunday afternoon after church was you could go to the movies. Off the corner of 8th Avenue and 3rd Street was the 8th Avenue Theater. You go and see Ben-Hur and Elizabeth Taylor and Butterfield 8 and the scary movies, and go and you buy a bag of stale popcorn, or you sneak your popcorn in, because you didn't have that kind of disposable income, right? But anyway, so you go in and the theater is like, it's a rundown place, and you walk into the theater, and you walk in, and the floors are sticky from like soda syrup and chewing gum, and then you're trying to look for a row of seats where there's like there's no, a seat that's not broken, or the cushion is in it, or and not cut open or busted open, and then and you watch that. But then I remember one day, through what they considered to be a social experiment, they were going to allow some black kids go to the Alabama Theater downtown Birmingham, which is like majestic compared to what I just described with the 8th Avenue Theater. Even though we had to sit in the balcony of the Alabama Theater, I thought I had died and went to heaven when we walked into the Alabama Theater. Not just because of symbolically what it represented, to do something like that was just forbidden and unthinkable. But then to walk in and see what it was like, that it was like red plush carpet, this thick carpet all throughout the place. And then you go into the theater, open the door, and all these fabulous red covered seats, and the brass railing all around this place, and the red thick velvet curtains. And I'm just like, it was the most emotionally overwhelming. I had never been that emotionally overwhelmed. My emotions had never been that euphoric. But that was just the dichotomy and the total disconnect between what my reality was and what was out there. But the most important thing that I always held on to was I was never an unhappy child. In spite of knowing what I was missing, there was something I was getting that the people who were overseeing my life, both at home and at school and church and all these other institutions, they made sure that I was not an unhappy child. And none of us were unhappy. I still know and believe with all my heart that there was a clear sense in this town before Dr. King came that the issue was about separate but equal. That equality was what was desired, not integration. So, because I believe in hindsight, those people who were about separate but equal knew that integration in this atmosphere, in this culture, would mean the destruction and the end of what we know as black communities. Had it been a separate but equal situation, I often wonder whether there would have been a civil rights movement.